Ellis Vaughn believed he had married the most ordinary man in the world. He drove a used Camry. He clipped coupons. Her friends called him Boring Ellis, and she never corrected them. What none of them knew, what nobody in his personal life had ever been allowed to know, was that Ellis quietly owned one of the most profitable exotic car rental companies in the region, a seven-figure operation he built from nothing, running entirely in the background of a life he kept deliberately modest. Then his doorbell rang. He looked through the front window and watched a cherry-red Ferrari idle at his own curb. His Ferrari from his fleet, rented by a man named Damien Knox for a substantial sum. His wife came downstairs in a dress he did not recognize, kissed Damien on Ellis's front step, and got into Ellis's car. In that moment, Ellis Vaughn did something nobody who knew him would have predicted. He did not go outside. He sat back down at his desk, opened his laptop, and created a folder. What he built inside that folder would cost them both everything. Before we jump into the story, comment where in the world you are watching from, and subscribe because the next story is one you need to hear. 1. Ellis Vaughn sat in the soft glow of his home office, the only sound the quiet hum of his laptop. Those evenings were for fleet analytics, his private ritual of reviewing the numbers that had built Apex Elite Rentals from a dream into reality. The screen showed row after row of bookings, each representing another luxury vehicle turning profit while most of his neighbors slept. He rubbed his tired eyes, allowing himself a small smile. The years of their marriage and Lila still had no idea that her boring husband had built a seven-figure business from nothing. The used Camry in their driveway, the carefully clipped coupons, the way he let her friends dismiss him at parties. It was all part of a careful performance, not out of shame, but wisdom, a lesson learned from his father, a Memphis mechanic who taught him that flash rarely equaled substance. The memory of his father's garage came back strong. The smell of oil and metal, the radio playing old soul music while young Ellis sat on a worn stool reading investment books instead of comic books. Build something real, his father had said, but never let anybody see all your cards at once. Ellis glanced at the notification on his phone. Another booking confirmed, another satisfied client. He had taught himself everything about business and finance through library books and careful observation. While other kids played video games, he studied market trends. While his cousins chased quick money, he learned about compound interest and patient capital. The sound of the doorbell pulled him from his thoughts. Through the front window, he caught sight of something that made his chest tighten. A cherry-red Ferrari idling at his curb. Unit 7 of his fleet. He knew every curve of that car, had personally overseen its last detailing. The booking details flashed in his mind. Damien Knox, a weekend rental. Heels clicked on the hardwood floors upstairs. Ellis stayed perfectly still, listening to his wife's movements. When Lila appeared at the bottom of the stairs, she wore a black cocktail dress he had never seen before. The price tag for it probably sat somewhere in their joint account. Another silent withdrawal he had noticed but never questioned. "Just meeting the girls for dinner," Lila said, adjusting an earring. Her voice was light, practiced. "Do not wait up." Ellis watched her reflection in his laptop screen. "Have fun," he said quietly. She did not look back as she walked to the door. Through the window, Ellis observed the scene with the detachment of someone watching security footage. Damien Knox, tall, confident, dressed like a man who wanted to be seen, opened the Ferrari's door. The kiss they shared on Ellis's front step was not quick or furtive. It was comfortable, familiar. His phone buzzed. Ellis looked down at the Apex Elite dashboard. Damian Knox, the weekend rental, paid in full. The irony might have been funny if it was not so brutal. This man was using Ellis's own car, paid for with Ellis's own platform, to romance Ellis's wife. The Ferrari's engine purred as it pulled away. Ellis sat in the growing darkness of his office, perfectly still. The urge to run outside, to shout, to demand answers, it rose and fell like a wave. But waves passed. Strategy remained. He looked at the laptop screen, at the numbers that had built his quiet empire. All those years of watching, waiting, building in silence. They had taught him patience, and patience right now was the only card worth playing. With slow, deliberate keystrokes, Ellis opened a new folder on his desktop. He named it simply Lila. The cursor blinked in the empty space, waiting, like him. He leaned back in his chair, hands folded in his lap. The office was silent now except for the soft whir of the laptop fan. Outside, crickets had started their evening chorus. Somewhere in the city, his Ferrari was carrying his wife to a dinner she would not be having with friends, and here he sat in the dark, beginning to think. All those years of people underestimating him, of Lila's friends calling him boring, of being dismissed as simple and predictable, they had not bothered him because he knew the truth. He had built something real, something valuable, something hidden. Now, looking at that empty folder on his screen, Ellis understood that it was time to build something else, a reckoning. The bedroom felt too large, too quiet. Ellis lay on his side of the bed, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy rotation. Sleep was not coming. His mind kept replaying the Ferrari's red gleam under the streetlights, the casual familiarity of that kiss on his front step. Around midnight, a thought pierced through the mental fog. The doorbell camera. He had installed it some time ago after someone stole a package containing parts for Apex's newest Mercedes. At the time, it had seemed like simple prevention. Now, it felt like foresight. Ellis pushed himself up and walked to his office, bare feet silent on the hardwood floors. The house was dark, except for the blue glow of his laptop screen. He navigated to the security system's website, logged in, and accessed the video archive. The footage was organized by date, neat thumbnails showing snapshots of each recorded motion. Ellis started with that evening. There it was, Lila walking out, Damian opening the car door. That kiss. He watched it again, noting how neither of them checked their surroundings. They felt safe, comfortable. He began scrolling backward through the calendar. A pattern emerged, clear as spreadsheet data. Some time ago, Damian's silver Range Rover. 3 weeks before that, the same car, similar time. Ellis recognized the dates. He had been away meeting with potential investors for Apex's expansion. Further back, more visits. Each time the Range Rover or sometimes a black BMW would appear after sunset. Each time, Damian would walk to the door with the confidence of someone who knew he was expected. And each time, these visits aligned perfectly with Ellis's business trips. He opened his travel calendar in another window, comparing dates. Every single one of Damian's appearances matched a day when Ellis was supposed to be out of town. The precision was almost admirable. They had been careful, methodical. Ellis thought back to those evenings, calling home from hotel rooms, Lila's voice always slightly distracted. Just me and the house. You know, I like the quiet when you are gone. He had attributed her distance to the natural drift of their marriage. How convenient that explanation had been. His phone lit up with a text. Lila's name appeared on the screen. "Hope dinner is good. Do not wait up." Ellis stared at the message, the casual deception of it, the easy lies wrapped in manufactured warmth. It should have made him angry. Instead, he felt a strange clarity. He took a screenshot, created a new subfolder in the Lila directory labeled Communications, and saved it. The security footage continued its silent replay on his screen. The pattern held steady. Months of documented visits, months of carefully orchestrated deception. Ellis watched it all with the same detached focus he used when analyzing market trends or evaluating fleet performance metrics. In the kitchen, he poured a glass of water. The house's silence felt different now, charged with the weight of everything he just confirmed. The old Ellis, the one everyone underestimated, might have reacted with hurt, with confrontation. But that was not who he was anymore. That was not who he had been for a long time. He picked up his phone again, opened his messages, and found Uncle Reggie's contact. His uncle had run client relations at Apex since the beginning, the only person who knew the full scope of what Ellis had built. If anyone could get him the information he needed quickly and discreetly, it was Uncle Reggie. Ellis composed the text carefully. "Need you to pull the full client file on a Damien Knox first thing tomorrow morning. Everything." The message sent with a soft whoosh. Outside, crickets chirped in the darkness. Somewhere in the city, his wife was having dinner with her boyfriend in a car rented from his company. The absurdity of it should have been funny. Instead, it felt like the first piece of a puzzle he had not known he was assembling. He sat at the kitchen counter, letting the darkness wrap around him. No lights, no movement, just the quiet ticking of the clock on the wall and the steady rhythm of his thoughts falling into place. Morning light filtered through the kitchen windows as Ellis sat at his table, coffee untouched. His phone rang early. Uncle Reggie had always been an early riser. "Morning, nephew." Uncle Reggie's familiar voice carried the weight of a sleepless night. "Got everything on your Damien Knox. Been working on it since your text." Ellis took a slow breath. "What did you find?" "Sent you the full file, but let me walk you through it." Paper rustled on Uncle Reggie's end. Several rentals total, spread across some time. First one was a Bentley Continental GT sometime last year. Second booking was the Aston Martin DB11. Then the Ferrari 458 Italia. Latest was the one he has now. Ellis opened his laptop, finding Uncle Reggie's email already waiting. The spreadsheet was meticulous. Dates, times, vehicle details, payment information. Uncle Reggie's attention to detail had always been one of Apex's greatest assets. "All charged to the same card?" Ellis asked, though he already knew the answer. "Corporate American Express, Knox Premier Properties." More shuffling of papers. "Man likes the flash. Always takes our highest-end options. Adds every premium package available. Total spending across all rentals comes to just under $20,000. Ellis pulled up his personal calendar in another window, the one tracking his business travel. He began matching dates, a familiar hollowness settling in his chest as the pattern emerged. He had been away meeting fleet suppliers. The other booking, investor conference, insurance forms all list him as sole driver, Uncle Reggie continued. Though interesting thing, he always picks up after business hours. Most clients doing corporate rentals collect during the day. Ellis thought of Damien's confident stride to his front door the other night. How practiced it had looked. How many times had that walk been rehearsed in other borrowed cars, all while Ellis was supposedly safely out of town? Any issues with the vehicles? Ellis kept his voice neutral. "Perfect record. Returns them clean. On time. full tank. Model client on paper. Uncle Reggie paused. Ellis, why are we looking into this? Something wrong with his latest booking. Due diligence on a repeat client. The lie felt smooth, necessary, considering him for our premium membership program. Uncle Reggie's silence carried weight. His uncle had always been able to read between Ellis's lines, but he also knew when not to push. All right, need anything else pulled? No, this is thorough. Ellis studied the rental agreement signatures on his screen. Damien's confident scroll claiming company business purpose on each one. Thank you, Uncle. After ending the call, Ellis sat motionless for several minutes, letting the full picture settle. Damien Knox had spent nearly $20,000 of his company's money renting luxury cars from Ellis's business, not for clients, not for deals, but to impress Ellis's wife. The calculated arrogance of it was almost artistic. He opened the Lila folder, creating a new section for the Apex records. Each rental agreement told its own story now. Dates chosen specifically for Ellis's absences. Cars selected for maximum impact. Even the pickup times showed planning, arranged for when neighborhood activity would be minimal. Ellis picked up his phone again, scrolling to another familiar number. It rang twice. Ellis. Elena's voice was clear, professional. Early for you to call. Need your help with something. He turned to face the window, watching morning traffic pass. I want a complete marital asset review. Every account, every transaction going back some time. The silence on Elena's end was brief, but loaded. As both his attorney and friend, she understood that this request marked a line being crossed. What level of detail? Everything. Joint accounts, individual accounts, credit cards, investments, any movement over $100. That is comprehensive. Her tone remained neutral. Timeline? Preliminary, by the start of the week if possible. I will clear my schedule. Papers shuffled. Elena was already making notes. Ellis, do you want to tell me what triggered this? Not yet. He watched a red car pass his house. Not the Ferrari, just a regular sedan. Just need to know where everything stands. All right, I will start today. A pause. Call if you need anything. Ellis ended the call and turned back to his laptop. He created another subfolder in the Lila directory, labeled it Financial, and began uploading the Apex rental records. Each document represented a choice Damien had made, a calculated risk taken with company funds. Each date marked a time Leela had chosen deception over truth. The coffee beside him had gone cold, untouched. Morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Elena's downtown office. Ellis sat across from her at the polished conference table, watching as she methodically arranged stacks of documents. Her movements were precise, almost surgical, as she created an orderly timeline of financial records. I cleared my entire schedule for this, Elena said, her voice carrying the weight of discovered certainties. She slid the first set of papers toward Ellis. The joint account analysis is where we start. It tells the clearest story. Ellis leaned forward, studying the highlighted transactions. Each page showed regular withdrawals. $200 here, $350 there. Sometimes as much as $500, but never more. Small enough to seem routine, regular enough to add up. She was careful, Elena continued, tapping a manicured nail against a particularly dense cluster of transactions. Never took enough at once to trigger fraud alerts or catch your attention, but over some time, she pulled out a summary sheet. The total diversion comes to $47,000. Ellis's expression remained neutral, but his fingers tightened slightly on the paper's edge. Where did it go? Elena extracted another document from her stack. Most of it traces to this savings account at First Regional. She slid the account summary across, opened some time ago. Sole owner, Ellis Vaughn. Current balance just over $38,000. And the remaining $9,000? That is where it gets interesting. Elena's tone sharpened. Some went to cash withdrawals we cannot track, but about $4,000 came from an unauthorized source entirely. She produced another document. This transfer came from the operating account of Cedar Heights, LLC, your rental property holding company, an account Lila has no legal authorization to access. Ellis studied the transfer record. The date was familiar, right around when Lila had started talking about launching her lifestyle brand. That moves this beyond divorce territory. Correct. Elena's eyes narrowed. Unauthorized access to a business account is a civil liability issue at minimum. Depending on how she gained access, there may be other implications. She stood, walking to a side table to pour water for them both. But there is more. The kitchen renovation from last spring raised several red flags. Ellis accepted the water glass, but did not drink. The $40,000 remodel she insisted on managing. The same. Elena returned with another folder. I contacted the contractor directly. The final scope of work was significantly reduced from the original quote. Fewer custom cabinets, standard rather than premium fixtures, no island extension. She laid out the revised work order. The actual cost came to $22,000, but you reimbursed her for the full $40,000 from your joint account. $18,000. Ellis's voice was quiet. She pocketed the difference. The contractor assumed you knew about the changes. She presented herself as managing the project on your behalf. Elena's expression tightened. There is a pattern here, Ellis. Systematic financial deception over an extended period. Small extractions that became larger ones. Unauthorized access to business accounts. Fraudulent reimbursement schemes. She was building an exit fund, preparing to leave on her terms with a cushion built from your money. Ellis stood, walking to the window. Downtown traffic flowed below. People moving through their Monday routines unaware of private dissolutions happening in glass towers above them. Document everything, he said finally, but do not file anything yet. You want to hold? Elena's tone was neutral, but questioning. I need the full picture before we move. He turned back to face her. How long can we sit on this? Given the statute of limitations on the financial issues, we have time. She began gathering the documents into a fresh folder. But Ellis, this type of behavior rarely improves. If anything, the pattern suggests escalation. I understand. He accepted the folder from her, its weight substantial with evidence. Send me your full report by end of day. I will let you know when I am ready to proceed. Back in his car, the used Camry that had become its own kind of camouflage, Ellis placed Elena's folder carefully in his briefcase. The Lila file was growing, each new edition revealing deeper layers of calculated deception. He checked his watch. Still time to stop at the grocery store. Maintain the routine Lila expected. Driving home, he mentally reviewed the dinner he had planned to cook. Something simple, but time-consuming. Something that would explain his absence all morning. Something that would let him stand at the counter and chop vegetables with steady hands while his mind processed numbers. 47,000. 18,000. Some time of small withdrawals adding up to one massive betrayal. He would make dinner. They would eat. She would ask about his morning, and he would mention running errands. Life would continue its performance while beneath the surface, evidence accumulated in carefully labeled folders. Evening's kitchen held the warm aroma of herb-roasted chicken and garlic. Ellis moved with practiced ease, plating the food while Lila leaned against the counter, wine glass in hand. Her smile carried the relaxed confidence of someone who believed they held all the cards. "This looks amazing," she said, sliding onto her usual chair. "I feel like we have not had a proper dinner together in ages." Ellis set her plate down with care. "Work has been busy for both of us." He took his seat, noting how she had positioned her phone face down, but within easy reach. A habit he had started tracking some time ago. "Speaking of work," Lila twirled pasta around her fork, "I have been thinking about making some changes. Professional changes." "Oh?" Ellis kept his tone interested, but neutral. "I have been developing this concept for a lifestyle brand. Curated home goods, entertaining tips, maybe some fashion elements." Her eyes lit up with genuine excitement. "The market is really good for that right now, especially with my social media following." Ellis nodded, remembering the $4,000 she had transferred from his LLC account. "That sounds interesting. Tell me more." "Well, it would need some startup capital." She watched him carefully. "But I really think I could make something special. Would you be supportive if I pursued this?" "Of course." Ellis met her gaze steadily. "I will always support you pursuing what matters to you." Her smile widened, missing entirely the precise meaning of his words. Over the next few days, Ellis maintained a flawless performance of domestic normality. He complimented takeout choices. He asked about her lunch meeting. Evening found them on the couch sharing space while some reality show played. Her choice. He noted how often her phone buzzed, how she angled the screen away while typing responses. Between these moments of choreographed marriage, Ellis moved pieces into position. He called Uncle Reggie. "I need all future bookings from Knox Premier Properties flagged for my personal review," he said. "Route them through secondary approval before confirmation. Any particular reason?" Uncle Reggie's tone suggested he already had theories. "Just keeping track of our high-value clients." Lunch with Randall Wade. Ellis had chosen the restaurant carefully. Upscale enough to suggest serious business, private enough for honest conversation. Wade arrived looking harried, the slight dishevelment of a man carrying too many concerns. "Appreciate you making time," Ellis said as they settled into a corner booth. "I know you are busy with the new development project." Wade's laugh held little humor. "Busy is one word for it. Speaking of which, this fleet partnership you mentioned, what exactly did you have in mind?" Ellis spent the next 20 minutes outlining a hypothetical arrangement between Apex Elite and Knox Premier Properties. Corporate rates, priority booking, the kind of deal that would justify this lunch, all while watching Wade's reactions to specific details. The expenditure tracking would be transparent, of course, Ellis mentioned casually. "All rentals itemized for your accounting department." Wade's expression tightened. Transparency would be refreshing. He pushed his salad around. "Between us, we are having some internal discussions about expense documentation. Certain charges that have not been properly itemized. That must be frustrating, especially when those charges keep appearing without explanation." Wade's fork clinked against his plate. "And my partner seems increasingly defensive about providing details." Ellis listened, asked careful questions, and filed away every word. By dessert, he had confirmation of what the rental record suggested: growing friction between partners, one of whom was using company funds for personal purposes while the other accumulated grievances. Returning home that afternoon, Ellis found a note from Lila on the counter. Running errands, back for dinner, XO. In his home office, he updated the growing folder with notes from lunch. Then he pulled up his calendar and began creating a business trip. Flight details, hotel confirmation, careful scheduling. At dinner that evening, he waited until she was reaching for the breadbasket. Nearly forgot to mention I have to head out of town this weekend. Last-minute client meeting. He kept his tone casual, mildly apologetic. Flying out Friday morning. Back Sunday night. Oh. Lila's hand paused briefly before taking a roll. That is short notice. Nature of the business sometimes. He offered her the butter. You will be okay here by yourself? Of course. She smiled, spreading butter with steady hands. You know me. I like the quiet when you are away. Ellis nodded, watching her carefully maintained expression. I know you do. Morning arrived with a thin autumn chill. Ellis wheeled his carry-on bag to the Camry, while Lila stood in the doorway wrapped in her silk robe. The neighborhood was quiet except for distant lawn mowers and the scratch of fallen leaves against concrete. Text me when you land, she said, adjusting his collar in a gesture that once would have felt intimate. Of course. He kissed her cheek, noting the faint scent of unfamiliar perfume. Do not work too hard on the brand planning while I am gone. Her laugh held genuine amusement. Someone has to have ambition in this marriage. Ellis smiled, letting the barb land without reaction. He backed out of the driveway, watching in his rearview mirror as she went inside without waiting for him to turn the corner. The airport terminal buzzed with typical morning energy. Business travelers with their efficient movements, families heading for weekend getaways. Ellis checked his bag, cleared security, and settled at his gate with a coffee and his laptop. He had chosen a window seat on the short flight. The plane landed. Ellis collected his bag, took a shuttle to his hotel, a mid-range place near downtown, and checked into a room. He ordered a club sandwich from room service and opened his laptop, reviewing work emails while he waited. The sandwich arrived lukewarm. He ate half. As afternoon light faded into evening, Ellis gathered what he needed from his bag, a small camera, his phone, and a portable battery pack. He caught a ride back to the airport and approached the rental counter. Reservation for Charles Richards, he said, using one of Apex's business aliases. The agent handed him keys to a charcoal-gray Ford F-150, common enough to be forgettable on any street. The drive back took some time. Traffic thinned as night settled in, dashboard lights casting a green glow across Ellis's steady hands on the wheel. He had chosen his route carefully, avoiding major highways near the city where traffic cameras might log his return. Ellis parked the truck 2 streets from his house. The residential block was dark and quiet. Most windows already dimmed. He had an unobstructed view of his driveway through a gap between houses. A black BMW M5 sat in his driveway, Damien's personal car, not an Apex rental. Ellis recognized it from previous surveillance photos. He activated the camera's night mode and documented the scene. Timestamp, license plate, position in the driveway. The bedroom lights were on upstairs. The hours passed with glacial patience. Ellis kept his phone on silent, tracking movement through the house by lights switching on and off. The bedroom went dark. A brief kitchen light. The master bathroom. Dawn crept in with heavy fog, the kind that made all houses look slightly unreal. Ellis photographed Damien's car still parked exactly where it had been. Evidence of a full night spent in Ellis's house, in Ellis's bed. His phone buzzed. An email from Uncle Reggie, flagged urgent. New reservation request from Knox Premier Properties vehicle, Lamborghini Urus, black. Dates, next weekend. Notes, anniversary trip requires owner approval per protocol. Ellis opened the Apex booking system on his phone. With precise movements, he approved the reservation, added a complimentary upgrade to their premium package, and included the champagne service normally reserved for celebrity clients. In the booking notes field, he typed, "From the team at Apex Elite, we take care of our most valued clients." His finger hovered over the signature line. Then he typed simply, EV. The fog was beginning to lift as Ellis started the truck. He had a plane to catch, a performance to maintain. The drive back felt shorter, his mind already moving to the next phase of what he had set in motion. By the time his scheduled return flight landed Sunday evening, Damien's BMW would be long gone from the driveway. Lila would have changed the sheets, aired out the house, erased the visible evidence, but the photos were already saved, the reservation confirmed, the signature sent. Ellis merged onto the highway heading east, leaving his house and its occupants behind in the gray morning light. He had a flight to catch, right on schedule. Morning arrived with steel-gray clouds and a hint of rain. Ellis walked into Elena's office carrying a black leather briefcase that held the complete Lila folder, now nearly 2 inches thick, with colored tabs marking key sections. The weight felt significant in his hand. Elena's office occupied a corner suite in a renovated brick building. Her desk, as always, was precisely organized. Files aligned, pens arranged, everything in its place. She gestured to the conference table where they had spread out the initial financial records some time ago. "Show me what else you have gathered," she said, adjusting her reading glasses. Ellis opened the briefcase and removed the folder. He placed it on the polished wood surface with deliberate care, like setting down something volatile. The tabs created a rainbow edge. Red for financial records, blue for surveillance, yellow for rental documentation, green for the renovation fraud. "Everything is here," he said. "Every transaction, every rental, every unauthorized access, the whole story." Elena opened the folder and began methodically reviewing each section. Her expression remained neutral, but her eyebrows lifted slightly at certain documents, particularly the photographs showing Damien's car in Ellis's driveway at dawn. "The financial picture is absolutely clear," she said after some time of review. "Lila's systematic withdrawal of funds over some time demonstrates intent. The unauthorized transfer from your LLC account crosses a serious legal line. The renovation fraud provides additional evidence of calculated deception." She looked up. "In terms of divorce proceedings, your position is exceptionally strong." Ellis nodded. "And the rental records? They establish a clear timeline of the affair and document Damien's misuse of company resources. More importantly, they demonstrate premeditation. He deliberately scheduled these rentals around your business travel." Elena closed the folder. "I can file everything tomorrow if you want." "Not yet," Ellis said. "Hold the documents, but have them ready. I need to make one more call first." He took out his phone and dialed Randall Wade's direct line. Wade answered on the second ring. "Ellis, good morning. How are you?" "I am well, Randall. Do you have a moment? There is something I need to bring to your attention as a matter of professional courtesy." There was a brief pause. "Of course." What is on your mind? Ellis kept his voice measured, factual. In reviewing Apex Elite's rental records, I noticed that Damien's company card has been used to expense personal luxury vehicle rentals consistently over some time. The total charges exceed $40,000, none of which appear to be legitimate business expenses. The silence on the other end lengthened. When Wade spoke again, his voice had cooled noticeably. I see. And you can document this pattern? Every rental, every date, every charge. I appreciate you bringing this to my attention, Wade said. His tone suggested he was already thinking several moves ahead. This information will be helpful in some discussions I need to have internally. I thought it might be, Ellis said simply. After ending the call, he looked at Elena. Wade will move quickly now. He has been looking for leverage in their partnership dispute. This gives him what he needs. Elena nodded, understanding. And the next step? Ellis picked up his phone again and scrolled to Vivian Whitfield's number. He had called Lila's mother exactly twice in the years of their marriage. This would be the third time. The phone rang 3 times before Vivian answered, her voice carrying its usual note of barely concealed condescension. Ellis? This is unexpected. Hello, Vivian. I was hoping to ask a favor. He kept his tone warm, pleasant. Would it be possible for Lila and me to join you for dinner this Sunday? Just family. There is something important I would like to share. Well, he could hear her mental calculations. I suppose that would be fine. Around 6? 6 would be perfect. Thank you, Vivian. After hanging up, Ellis sat quietly for a moment. The Lila folder lay closed on the table between him and Elena. Months of evidence, years of deception, all of it documented and organized and ready. He picked it up and placed it carefully in his briefcase. Sunday is some time away, Elena said. Ellis closed the briefcase latches with 2 soft clicks. Yes, he said. It is. The gray clouds outside had thickened, threatening rain. Ellis could see his reflection in Elena's office window, calm, contained, a man who had waited long enough. Vivian Whitfield's house sat on a corner lot in an old money neighborhood, its brick facade and manicured shrubs projecting exactly the image she had spent decades maintaining. Ellis parked his Camry at the curb, the Lila folder resting in his briefcase on the passenger seat. Through the dining room window, he could see Lila already seated at the table, laughing at something Vivian had said. The autumn air carried a slight chill as Ellis walked up the brick path to the front door. He adjusted his navy sport coat, the one Lila had always said made him look presentable, and rang the bell. Vivian opened the door wearing an apron over her designer dress, the picture of domestic sophistication. Ellis, right on time as always. Her smile carried its usual hint of evaluation. Come in. Dinner is nearly ready. The house smelled of roasted chicken and fresh bread, Vivian's standard Sunday menu. Lila rose to greet him with a quick kiss on the cheek. Her perfume familiar and suddenly strange. I got here early to help Mom with the sides, she said. Ellis nodded, noting how relaxed she was, how certain of her ground. Can I help bring anything to the table? He asked Vivian. No need. Everything is ready. Just have a seat. Vivian carried in a platter of perfectly browned chicken. I made your favorite rosemary potatoes, Ellis. They settled into their usual chairs, Vivian at the head of the table, Lila and Ellis facing each other across its polished mahogany surface. The briefcase rested against Ellis's chair leg. Vivian said grace, her usual brief blessing, while Lila bowed her head demurely. The first few minutes passed in ordinary dinner conversation. Vivian discussed her garden club's upcoming fall competition. Lila mentioned a charity event she was helping organize. Ellis listened, responded appropriately, and waited until the initial eating rhythm had been established. When Vivian paused to refill her water glass, Ellis reached down and lifted his briefcase onto his lap. The slight movement drew both women's attention. He rarely brought work materials to dinner. "Before we continue," he said quietly, "there is something I need to share with both of you." He removed the Lila folder and placed it precisely in the center of the table between the chicken platter and bowl of potatoes. Lila's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "What is that?" Ellis opened the folder with careful deliberation. "Vivian," he said, looking directly at his mother-in-law, "I want to walk you through some information I have discovered over the past few weeks. I believe you deserve to hear it firsthand." He began with the doorbell camera footage timestamps, laying out printed screenshots showing Damien's Ferrari and later his personal car, appearing at their house during Ellis's business trips. Each image was labeled with date and time. "Ellis, this is not," Lila started. He continued speaking to Vivian in the same measured tone, acknowledging Lila's interruption only by slightly raising his volume. "These visits correlate exactly with my travel schedule for Apex Elite Rentals, my company, which handles luxury vehicle rentals. Mr. Knox was actually renting cars from my fleet to facilitate these visits." Vivian's expression had frozen, her water glass suspended halfway to her lips. Ellis moved methodically through the financial records next. Bank statements highlighting the pattern of small withdrawals. Spreadsheets totaling the $47,000 Lila had methodically siphoned over some time. "This is not appropriate dinner conversation," Lila tried again, her voice tight. Ellis turned to the renovation documentation. The kitchen remodel last spring was quoted at $42,000. Lila negotiated it down to $24,000, but submitted the original quote for reimbursement. The difference went to her private account. He slid the contractor's signed statement across the table. Vivian had not moved. Her water glass now rested on the table, untouched. The unauthorized LLC transfer documentation came last. Ellis presented it with the same professional clarity he would use in a business meeting. When he finished, he closed the folder and looked at Vivian. "I wanted you to hear this from me first," he said quietly, "because you will hear a version of it from her, and I wanted you to have the truth." He stood, tucking the folder back into his briefcase. "Elena will be in touch Monday morning," he said to Lila, whose face had drained of color. Without another word, he walked out of the dining room and through the front door. Vivian did not follow to see him out. As Ellis reached his car, he heard no voices from the house behind him, only silence. He placed his briefcase on the passenger seat and started the engine. The drive to Damien Knox's office building would take some time. The lobby of Knox Premier Properties gleamed with the artificial warmth of Sunday evening security lighting. A cleaning crew was finishing up, their vacuums humming in distant corridors. The front desk sat empty except for a young security guard scrolling on his phone, barely glancing up as Ellis walked past. The elevator ride to the 14th floor was silent except for the soft ping of passing floors. Ellis had chosen this moment carefully. Sunday evening meant minimal staff, no executive assistants, no buffer between himself and Damien Knox. The 14th floor was mostly dark, except for light spilling from the corner office. Ellis's footsteps echoed softly on marble tile as he approached. Through the glass walls, he could see Damien at his desk, suit jacket draped over his chair, shirt sleeves rolled up as he studied something on his laptop screen. The Ferrari's key fob sat next to his mouse pad, Unit 7, still in his possession for another day. Ellis opened the door without knocking. Damien looked up, his expression shifting from irritation to recognition to something more complex. He had always known exactly who Ellis was. That was part of the thrill, Ellis realized. Dating a colleague's wife might be risky, but seducing the wife of someone you considered beneath you? That was power. "Mr. Vaughn," Damien said, recovering quickly. "This is unexpected." Ellis sat in one of the leather chairs facing the desk, placing his briefcase on his lap. "I will be brief." He removed 2 documents and laid them precisely on the polished desk surface. The first was an Apex Elite invoice, professionally formatted, itemizing every rental Damien had made over some time. Each entry had been recalculated at personal rather than corporate rates, with breach of commercial use penalties applied per the rental agreement Damien had signed. The total at the bottom was substantial, just over $27,000. The second document was a summary of expenditure queries Randall Wade had submitted to their company accountant that afternoon. The highlighted items included every car rental, every dinner, every hotel charge Damien had filed as business expenses while pursuing Lila, questions that would now require detailed explanation. Damien glanced at both papers, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. The office was silent except for the distant hum of the building's ventilation system. "You rented several cars from my company," Ellis said quietly. "You used my cars to take my wife to places funded by money she stole from me, and you expensed your half to a partnership you are already losing." Damien's fingers tapped once on his desk, the only visible sign of tension. "I assume you are here to negotiate." "No." Ellis's voice remained level. "I am here to collect. The invoice is due in 30 days. Elena knows where your assets are." He stood, smoothing his sport coat. Damien's expression had shifted again, the confidence draining away as he fully processed the architecture of his situation. This was not a confrontation. It was not even revenge. It was simply business, executed by someone who had been 3 steps ahead the entire time. Ellis walked to the door without looking back. Behind him, Damien sat motionless, staring at 2 pieces of paper that represented the end of everything he had built. The cleaning crew's vacuum cleaner echoed from somewhere down the hall, an ordinary sound on what had become, for Damien Knox, an extraordinary evening. The security guard was still scrolling on his phone when Ellis passed through the lobby. Outside, the autumn air had grown colder. Ellis's Camry waited at the curb, reliable and unremarkable, exactly like its owner, until tonight. Damien remained at his desk, alone with the specific dread of a man who had just understood, fully and too late, who he had actually been dealing with. The invoice and expenditure summary lay on his desk like prosecution exhibits. Every line item represented a choice he had made, each one now returning with compound interest. The autumn sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows in Ellis's new office, warming the glass surface of his desk where Memphis Business Quarterly lay open to a 6-page feature spread. The magazine's glossy pages showed Ellis standing beside Unit 7, the cherry-red Ferrari 488 Spider that had started everything. His smile in the photo was genuine, relaxed. The headline read, "Apex Elite, How Ellis Vaughn Built Memphis's Premier Luxury Car Service." He picked up his coffee mug, ceramic and simple, and looked out over the expanded lot where 30 high-end vehicles gleamed in the morning light. Apex Elite's second location had opened some time ago across town, doubling their fleet capacity. The waiting list for weekend bookings stretched sometime deep. The consequences of that Sunday dinner had unfolded like a quiet avalanche. Randall Wade's internal audit of Knox Premier Properties revealed more than just improperly expensed car rentals. Pattern after pattern emerged. Personal trips logged as business development, inflated client entertainment charges, systematic misuse of company resources. The partnership dispute that followed was expensive and public. Local business papers covered it with barely concealed satisfaction. Watching Damian Knox's carefully crafted image crumble had made for compelling copy. Damian fought back, of course, but fighting required explaining, and explaining meant documentation, and documentation was exactly what he did not have. By the time the dust settled, his ownership stake was significantly diluted, his decision-making authority restricted by new partnership agreements. He still had his title, but everyone in Memphis real estate knew what that title was worth now. The invoice Ellis had left on his desk that Sunday night paid in full 30 days later with a cashier's check delivered by courier. No note attached. Lila's portion of the story resolved with similar inevitability. Elena's filing was comprehensive, leaving no room for negotiation. The $47,000 she had siphoned became part of the settlement calculation, along with the renovation fraud and unauthorized LLC transfer. The lifestyle brand she had been planning never materialized. Her carefully cultivated social media presence went quiet, then private, then dormant. She moved back to Vivian's house during the proceedings, expecting the unconditional support she had always received. But Vivian had sat at that Sunday dinner table. She had watched her daughter face Ellis's evidence without denial or defense. Something fundamental had shifted in that moment, not just about Lila, but about Vivian's own role in creating her. The house that should have been a refuge became instead a quiet purgatory of abbreviated conversations and closed doors. Ellis's new apartment occupied the top floor of a renovated downtown warehouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows filled the space with natural light, more than the house had ever seen. The kitchen featured a professional-grade range where he cooked elaborate Sunday breakfasts, rediscovering a hobby he had somehow lost during the marriage. Friends visited often now. He hosted dinner parties. He laughed easily. He was not bitter. Bitterness required ongoing emotional investment in people who no longer deserved it. He had given the situation exactly as much energy as it required. No more, no less. The folder labeled Lila sat in a filing cabinet untouched since the final settlement signing. Its work was done. His desk phone buzzed. Ellis? Uncle Reggie's voice carried its usual warm efficiency. Got a new client inquiry for Unit 7. Full weekend rental, premium package. Ellis glanced out at the Ferrari gleaming in the morning sun. Confirm it at full rate. Still the most popular car in the fleet, Uncle Reggie said. Ellis could hear the smile in his voice. It always was, Ellis replied. He hung up and lifted his coffee mug, now empty. Through the windows, he watched a young couple approach the Lamborghini Urus, one of their newest acquisitions. Their excited gestures and wide eyes reminded him why he had built this in the first place, not just as a business, but as a way to make dreams tangible, if only for a weekend. The magazine still lay open on his desk, his own face looking back at him from the glossy pages. He closed it and turned to his laptop where fleet analytics and booking projections waited for review. There was work to do. There was always work to do, and he was grateful for it. I hope you enjoyed that one. Be sure to like the video and subscribe so you do not miss the next story. I have picked out 2 more for you that I think you will really like.